Want to sharpen your game? Join the DFM Coaching Patreon for exclusive technique breakdowns and mindset training. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be discussing what I've learned about leadership. This is going to cover both what I call civilian, non-jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu, and maybe even a little bit of what I've learned in the military. If you're in a position where you are coaching, if you are maybe even doing assistant coaching or you're teaching kids, any of these, gym owner, they fall under all of these. If you're someone who even maybe you're purple belt and up, and you're in a position where maybe you're entrusted with certain responsibilities at the gym, and this can even extend to people who don't have an official role or capacity, but do have maybe an unofficial role where they maybe mentor the new students. They could be a blue belt, and they've kind of taken it upon themselves to usher and welcome in and look after new students. If you're in any type of leadership role, whether it's official or unofficial, this is going to speak to you. If you think you're going to be in any one of these things, this also speaks to you. And I think, in my opinion, that it should speak to every person that is in the gym. We all hold little territories of responsibility within a gym. Some of us a bit more than others. You might be someone like me who runs the morning program, and I have to make sure that we have the instructors in place that will teach a certain way and structure the class a certain way. I have to make sure that they're keeping their eye on certain things. If we need subs, we take care of that. And we handle our promotions internally, in a sense. Or you might be the gym owner, or you run the gym as a front desk person, or you run the gym in the absence of the gym owner when maybe they're away on seminars or vacation, whatnot. Your job is to understand the qualities of leadership and what they entail, both on the human side and when it comes to maybe mentoring people within jiu-jitsu. Consistency is going to be key above any and everything else. You cannot lead with mood swings. You cannot lead people who can't buy into your patterns. If you're all over the place, people tend to feel frazzled and they can't hone in on what version of you is going to come through that door at any moment or any day. I had a supervisor at a job, and I love the guy. We talk even to this day, occasionally, every once in a while. I'll check in, or he'll check in, or he'll give me news on someone. And we haven't worked together in quite a long time. When I worked for him, one of the things that we had noticed was that he was sometimes a little moody, depending on what was going on. And we didn't know why. And we started to pay attention to which version we were going to get when he walked through the door. If he drove in really relaxed and just kind of like cruised into the drive, cruised into the spot. We all had our own little spots that we all loved to park in, and he had his. And if he eased into that spot casually, we were going to have a good day, more than likely. If he tore into the spot aggressively, we knew that there was going to be tension right off the bat. And he wasn't a yeller. He wasn't necessarily over the top. I've had a couple of people that were really difficult to be around. He wasn't that, but you can tell what mood he was in based on how he parked his car. That's how much people pay attention to you. You may not even be aware. I don't know if he was ever aware, but the employee, the student, the mentee is always going to pay attention to your moods. If he walked a certain way, we knew what kind of, because he had a key ring on his hip, on his belt loop, and you could hear him walking around. If he was whistling, he was in a good mood. So you would hear the whistle throughout the building as he walked around. So you knew he was in a good mood. If he was walking really hard and fast and the keys were jingling a little too hard, he was not in a good mood. And we knew this. And there were times when we knew, okay, you got to button this shit up. Shut the fuck up. Like, let the man be. Don't make this bad for anybody. Be on your P's and Q's. Handle your business. Don't create any additional issues for this man. we can tell he's not in the mood. And that was just the environment. And again, every student, mentee, potential like person who's on a maybe trial period, we're going to pay attention to the people in leadership more than we pay attention to anybody else. Employees especially. We go out of our way to understand our boss more than they will ever understand us. And I'm in a role of being a supervisor. I'm in a role of being someone's employee. I understand my boss far better than she understands me. And I love that woman. We have a great relationship. We've been working together for 13 years. But it's part of the process. You as the employee just pay attention more because you don't want to be on the wrong side of things, and you want to make sure they're in a good mood when you ask for something and whatnot. It's just like your parents. You know your parents and what mood they're going to be in, how they walk through the door. I'm not going to ask to go to that party today. They are not in the mood for my bullshit. And that changes. And so we always knew what kind of temperament someone was in. I know what kind of temperament my current boss is in. I know when I can go in there and bring her some fuck shit. Like, hey, ma'am, something happened and I need you not to respond. I just need you to listen. Or she's in a great mood. Hey, I got this issue I need your opinion on. And she'll be like, shoot, review it. Maybe we laugh at some dumb shit that happened because of it. And I go about my business and I go handle it. So consistency is always going to be everything. It's going to be a superpower for you. When my students pick up on something, like I have one, he's a purple belt, who, in my opinion, is one of the heartbeats of the gym because he's always taking care of people. If he's around me and he notices something, like I'm off, and it's not completely available to everyone. Like most people don't notice when I'm off. I'm not temperamental. I don't yell. I don't it's not that. And he'll send me a message. Hey, I hope everything's okay. Or is everything okay? And I usually have to explain, I'm just exhausted. I got work kicking my ass and I'm teaching and I'm waking up at 4:30. I'm just exhausted. Everything's generally good. I'm good. And he'd be like, okay. But again, they pay attention to the consistency and when things are off. And it's your job to create an environment that is leveled for as much as you can control. You never want to go in and people are looking at you to gauge which version of you they're going to see. At work, I'm pretty mellow and even keel. Same with the gym. I'm sure they notice certain things on certain days. Like I said, employees pay attention, students pay attention. But I don't have extreme highs and lows. Even when things get really stressed, I might visually or verbally tell someone, hey, there's a lot going on, blah, blah, blah. But you're not going to see me flying off the handle. You're not going to see me yelling. You're not going to see me come into the gym and just randomly wreck shop to like appease my stress levels. You don't see that. So I try to leave or consistently be in a baseline for no matter how I am. And I am naturally a quiet person, so people will get used to me being quiet. I like to joke about things. People are going to get used to me joking. But I don't think anyone at the gym has ever seen me angry. I don't think anyone at work has seen me angry, quote unquote angry. Maybe annoyed, maybe frustrated with some things, but they've never seen me angry. So be consistent in everything that you're doing. Be consistent in how you're delegating tasks, how you're delegating or giving feedback. If you never want to be in a position where you ignore people for long periods of time. I had a boss that did not give feedback regularly. I've had an instructor who was not great at giving feedback regularly. So oftentimes you didn't know where you stood. So you have to be consistent in the shorter and the long distance. So give that feedback, even if it's just a couple of sentences. Hey, put your hand here. It shows to the student and employee and the people around you, oh, he's paying attention. She's paying attention. And they're noticing things about me. I'm not being ignored or relegated or not being attended to. Make sure that you try to be consistent with everyone around you. You're going to have students who have been there longer that maybe you're closer to, but you want to make sure that the white belts that are stuck in a corner drilling together because they feel more comfortable with each other are also getting your attention. So oftentimes when I break up after a demo, I'll sit with the white belts for a little bit longer. And it's not that I'm trying to show favoritism. They need a little bit more guidance. There's more correcting that's going to happen in that space that I'm going to have to be a part of. And if I go to the people that I'm most comfortable with, because I feel like maybe I can invest in them more because I know they're going to be around longer, then I'm going to create an issue for these other people over here with, one, they continue to feel lost and they feel like I'm not being invested in them. So try to invest as equally as possible. And that's difficult, but that's the job we signed up for. Calm, I think, is a contagious aspect. I have worked with people, like I mentioned, that have a tendency to fly off the handle or be in a position where they can't control or relegate their emotions. I remember being in a gym where sometimes yelling occurred. I remember being in a gym where there was a lot of impatience with people. And I think that quality of impatience and frustration, when the instructor or leader does that, it trickles down to everyone else and they think this is the way we're supposed to handle stress. I had an instructor who was kind of that way a lot with students, especially if you were making a mistake that he felt was dumb. And then there was he wasn't an instructor per se. I think he instructed periodically. At the time, he was a brown belt and he was getting frustrated with a student. And I had to step in because of the approach he did towards that student. I thought was, in essence, disrespectful. I didn't think that it was beneficial to the student to feel like they were dumb, and not that they were being told they were dumb, they were being treated like they were dumb. So I stepped in and I taught them the technique, and then they got it. But that brown belt just got frustrated with the situation. And again, we came from an environment where sometimes that happened. And then the people under you think that that's the way to do things, or think that it's okay. And this goes into the civilian life as well. We have quite a few leaders who talk to people in a way that is, in my opinion, disrespectful. And then their staff tends to talk to my staff sometimes in a disrespectful manner. And I have to get involved. And it trickles down. One, because it shows that you think that this is okay. So then you mirror that aspect. This might be your first leader that you've been around for long periods of time. It might be someone you look up to. And then second, it might just be that you're not necessarily trying to convey or mimic, but you're stressed out too. So you're frustrated because someone shit on you. So then you decide to shit on the next person and you have that problem. So your job is to be as calm as possible and as respectful as possible, no matter how tense the situation might get. I think that I've been around certain people who never flew off the handle. Even when they were disrespected, they had this way of like addressing something super calm, but you knew what they meant. They didn't have to raise their voice. They got calm. Their face got tense, not like angry, but tense where you're conveying this is serious. And they conveyed their message without having to yell, without having the name called, without having to bash someone. And it got the message across. I've always really liked that approach. So no matter what the situation was for me, I've always tried to remain calm. I had a student who, in my opinion, got robbed at a competition. Decision made, I don't even remember the details, but the referee made a weird decision, a real call. And we ended up having a discussion about it. I ended up going to through an email to the organizer afterwards, trying to get at least a credit for the situation because it was so weird. I can't remember all the details, but it didn't make any sense how it was done. And I think the wrong person was put in the wrong match and something else. But I felt it was mishandled. And I always want to put a kind of approach where we're not going to act up. We're not going to act out. We're not going to disrespect people because a decision was made. Our job is to remain who we are, no matter what, and address it however we can in the most respectful way we can. I remember I got slammed one time during a competition. I think I was a purple belt. Maybe blue. And I got slammed. I was heated because, one, I got slammed and I was hurt. And two, because I felt like the referee didn't make the right call. But I didn't yell. I calmly spoke to him. Hey, this is what he had a different opinion on what occurred. I had my opinion. And I was like, okay. And I accepted his ruling because he's the referee. I don't never want to convey or be the, oh shit, what the fuck is that guy doing? And that get back to my instructor, or that misrepresent the gym that I'm at or the company or the department that I'm at. So I'm very conscious of how I want to, the message and the image that I want to convey. And calm is always going to be the leading light in anything that I do. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be a day somewhere where I'm going to lose it because we all have our breaking point. But our jobs are to kind of lead with calm so that the people around us understand that that's a possibility as well. Listening is going to be a massive one. I have conversations with people through IM. I have conversations with people in face-to-face, and I try to listen as much as possible on what they're feeling and what they're going through. I have had students who are frustrated with the process of jiu-jitsu because they don't quite understand all the elements, like promotions, for example. Well, I'm submitting this guy, but I didn't get promoted. And so it's not really about that. It's about this, this, and this. And then I can convey, hey, what I want to see is, I want you to improve these things. I remember I had a little girl, and I think I've mentioned this before, at the kids' class. She had two siblings, and they had gotten promoted. And she wasn't quite ready, so I didn't put her there. She was younger, the youngest of the three. And she had a little bit of a fit. And I'm like, okay, we're going to correct that. And the next time we got around to promotions, I think she had another fit because someone else got promoted. And I sat her down and I said, look, so you know how happy you get when you get that promotion? She's like, yes. How would you feel if someone was mad or upset that you got a promotion and they didn't? And she kind of like, in her own kid way, kind of understood a little bit. And I said, so I want you, every time someone gets promoted, I want you to be happy for them. Your time is going to come, but I want you to be happy for them. She's like, okay. And I remember we had levels of promotion regularly because they're kids. And I finally saw the way she responded, taking my words into account. And she was genuinely happy for whoever got promoted. I was like, perfect. That's what I'm looking for. She had a lot of the other things. She had her technique. She was aggressive when she needed to be aggressive. She paid attention. She's a great student. But one of the things that I needed was for her to, one, express herself, and then we understand where we're at, and then I need you to do the things that I'm kind of stressing. You're going to have moments where you have conversations with students, and they're not going to necessarily agree with everything, but you're going to have to just listen. Don't take anything personal. Don't get super frustrated about things. They're going to show you things or talk to you about things that maybe you're not even aware of. And some of it you may take personal. I've had conversations of students who were upset with the process of a gym. And the gym owner, instead of really listening to the issue and maybe correcting it, they took it offensively and lashed out. Again, if a student's mentioning something, you may not necessarily agree with it all, but your job is to listen. Because they may have a point here. One of my points at one gym was that sometimes classes didn't start on time. And for me, punctuality is huge. And they didn't start on time, and then they ended late, and then I got to go home, and I'm tired, but I can't sleep because I'm wound up from class. So understanding that, hey, I got to do certain things here. I got to make sure these classes are starting, ending on time. Instructor's ready to go. I got to understand that maybe my teaching philosophy is going to be different than other people. Maybe I don't call people out a certain way. Then you have to listen. You have to listen to body language, nonverbals. How do people get when you correct them around people? Some people are completely fine being corrected in in public, and some people, they're going to want to be corrected privately. But if you're not listening and paying attention, you're going to keep doing it the way you want to do it, and you're going to alienate a certain demographic of your student base. Listening is huge. I do a survey every December, and most of the questions are the same every year, and then I maybe alter one or two based on something that I picked up. One of the things was I had coming up, we were drillers. We drilled a lot. So I had this concept, which in my opinion, I think still works, which is instead of doing a traditional warm-up for 5 to 7 minutes, you guys are going to drill the thing that you want to work on. It does a couple of things. It forces you to, one, pay attention to what you need to work on, come to class with something in mind, and then you're taking charge of your game. Not everyone took it that way. Some people didn't have anything. Some people didn't want to think about anything. And in one of the surveys, one of the things was brought up was the drilling. And they didn't really want to do that. So I got a couple around that range, and then I said, okay. So we stopped doing it. I still think it's massively beneficial. But I'm going to listen to the student base in certain things, and I'm going to understand that, okay, I need to make a change here. So I made a change. I haven't done that in a while. Setting up boundaries is going to be massive. There's going to be moments where you're going to have to set a boundary that people are not going to like. And in not liking it, you have to stand on business because you understand that either it does not mirror the environment you're trying to create, or it does not mirror the relationship you're trying to have with that person. Me, for example, lighter note. I did not like, when I was teaching kids, I did not like kids that were super huggy with me. So I set a boundary in which I did not do that, even though they wanted to. I'm a guy. I'm teaching rough, 6 to 7 year olds. I loved the format. I loved being around them. I loved the energy. Kids are fantastic. They're brutally honest. They're fun to be around. But I've never been a touchy-feely person, and I didn't like to put myself or them in a position where someone could ever say, David was inappropriate. He touched them too long, or he hugged them too long, or any of those things. So me being from that background and not being super touchy-feely and being mindful of, hey, these people are not my kids. I train them, I teach them, I maybe mentor them, but they're not my kids, and I need to, one, put myself at ease and put parents at ease. So I was never alone with kids. I was never super touchy or huggy with kids. We played. They sometimes used me as a jungle gym from time to time, but I always had this border or this boundary where I was going to, this is as far as I go. But I would watch like the other instructors, the women, and they were super, they were like moms. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. But the environment's different. The expectation's a little different. So for them, it worked. For me, I didn't think that it should work that way, and I didn't think it made me feel comfortable, so I had boundaries. I also have boundaries with adults. Like, you don't have to call me professor. You can call me by my first name. I'm perfectly fine with all those things. My big boundary is we're always going to respect each other regardless of rank. If we disagree, we're not going to raise our voices. If we disagree, we're not going to badmouth each other and call each other names. We're going to always have a discussion in respect. And it has to be centered around that if this relationship is going to work. So I've always been big on this. And on the civilian side, I've had people who have pushed back on decisions or a situation. I'm perfectly fine with having a conversation about something you're upset about or a decision I made that you didn't think was fair or that you think I was out of line on. Perfectly fine with it. But if it gets tense on your side, I'm going to shut it down. I don't like raised voices. I don't like any insinuation of disrespect, any of that. State your case, state it professionally, calmly, and we can discuss. And I've had certain situations where maybe an employee was really upset with a decision, and I try to explain what it is and they keep pushing back. And I'm like, look, this is the decision. I'm sorry you don't appreciate it, but this is a decision that was made because of XYZ, things that you're not quite aware of. But I can't make a different decision for this. So this is where we're going. You don't necessarily have to be happy. I'm fine with you telling me that you're not happy or why you're not happy, but we need to keep it professional. And I've had to have those conversations sometimes. And it should always be that way. You should always set up some kind of boundaries. You do not want people walking all over you at the gym or on the civilian side or even with your personal side. There's times when something may happen at the gym, nothing crazy with me at least. But sometimes I'll overhear something that maybe isn't on par with what the gym should be. And so I kind of shut it down or I have a conversation about it and it gets worked out. But you have to set those boundaries. Lastly, and this brings me back to like that conversation that there was an interview with Kobe Bryant where he was asked, is leadership lonely? And he says yes, but he's fine with it. I have had to get comfortable with leadership being lonely. It's fun. It's rewarding. You get to mentor a lot of people. You get to push a lot of people past their perceived limitations are. And you get to see people foster and grow and develop into these versions of themselves that they didn't think were possible. But leadership is lonely. You're going to have to make decisions that the group is not going to like. Sometimes you have to make a decision on the class structure that maybe is better for student development, but they don't think is as fun. Maybe you're going to have to make a decision on eliminating a class because it doesn't fit the model that you guys are currently in. So you're going to have to make these decisions from time to time that are genuinely lonely. A student might want to get promoted and feel that they're ready, but you have to hold them back because you're like, you still need a couple months. There's a couple things I still need you to work on. And they're going to be a little bit on the outs with you potentially, but you have to understand that leadership's lonely. And while we're all students of Jiu-Jitsu or workers at a plant or a warehouse or an office, when you're in a leadership position, you're going to make decisions and be in a position where you are going to be by yourself and misunderstood sometimes. There's plenty of times when I'm like, I need a student to do X, Y, Z, or I need the employee to do X, Y, Z, and they don't quite understand it. You explain it. They may still not agree with it, but it just is what it is. Like, as a promoting instructor, there's certain things that I want out of a student, and they don't always understand that want versus the need or the want to get promoted. And you have to kind of have a conversation. It's like, so you're missing these key elements, and this is what I want you to work on. Do I have your word you'll work on these things? Most of the time, they're like, yes. But again, you have to have that conversation. You have to initiate that conversation, which is difficult sometimes. And depending on your personality, it could be scary. But you have to come into these positions as instructors and lead instructors and owners and people who are running programs or supervisors, that no matter how friendly everyone is, you're the one person that's different from everyone else. And when you make decisions, not everyone's going to like it. And a lot of the conversations that you have to have that are difficult, they're going to put you on the out of other people and you're going to feel lonely, and you have to be okay with it. If there are any other questions about leadership or maybe something that I missed that you've maybe stumbled upon and want to get out and maybe point at, let me know. DFM.2099 on Instagram and Threads. I have a free school program, DFM Coaching BJJ. You can either search me on school or go through the show notes for the link. Completely free. If you have any questions, need help, please let me know. Until next time, thank you so much.